Where the Wildflowers Grow. Chapter 1. The Arrival. Lila hadn't planned on returning to Cedar Creek. After leaving for college in the city, she swore she'd never come back to the small town that felt more like a prison than a home. But when her grandmother passed, she had no choice. The family farm needed tending, and with her parents both retired and traveling, the responsibility fell to her. The drive back felt longer than it was, stretching out across empty fields and winding country roads. The farm came into view just as the sun began to set, casting the familiar landscape in a soft golden light. It was beautiful in its own way, quiet and calm, a stark contrast to the bustling city streets Lila had grown used to. She pulled into the gravel driveway and turned off the car, staring out at the house that had once been her entire world. The white farmhouse, its paint peeling in places, stood as a silent reminder of the past. Wildflowers dotted the yard, their vibrant colors standing out against the tall, untamed grass. Lila sighed, grabbed her bags, and made her way inside, not yet ready for what the next few weeks might bring. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Reunion. The next morning, Lila woke early to the sound of birds chirping outside her window. She had a list of things to do: check on the animals, see what repairs needed to be made, and figure out how she was going to survive the solitude of country life. She wasn't used to the quiet anymore. The silence felt too loud. As she walked the property, memories of her childhood flashed in her mind. Summers spent running through the fields, climbing the old oak tree near the barn, and helping her grandmother in the garden. But those memories were tainted with the knowledge of who she'd been back then. Someone unsure, scared to acknowledge the parts of herself that didn't fit the town's expectations. Lost in thought, she didn't hear the car pull up until it was too late. Lila! She turned at the sound of the voice, one she hadn't heard in years. Standing by the gate was Rowan, the girl she had once called her best friend, and maybe something more, though neither of them had ever dared to say it out loud. Rowan had changed since high school. Her once long hair was now cut into a messy bob, and she wore overalls stained with paint. But her smile was the same, and Lila felt her stomach twist in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. "Rowan," Lila said, forcing herself to sound casual. "I didn't expect to see you here." Rowan leaned against the gate, her eyes warm and teasing. "Small town. People hear things." Lila chuckled. "Yeah, I guess they do." "You here for long?" Rowan asked, her tone light but with an undercurrent of something else. "Just until the estate is sorted out. Maybe a few weeks." Rowan nodded, her gaze drifting toward the farmhouse. "If you need help with anything, just let me know. I still live down the road." There was a beat of silence between them, thick with unspoken words. Lila had always wondered what might have happened between them if things had been different. If she hadn't been so scared back then, if she hadn't left. "I might take you up on that," Lila finally said, offering a small smile. "There's a lot of work to be done." Rowan grinned, the old mischievous spark in her eyes. "Good. I'll see you around then." Chapter 3. Rebuilding Bridges. The next few days passed quickly, with Lila busy tending to the animals and getting the house in order. She spent her mornings in the barn and her afternoons sorting through her grandmother's belongings. It was bittersweet finding old letters and photos that told the story of a life well lived. True to her word, Rowan started stopping by almost every day. Sometimes she helped with repairs around the farm, and other times she just sat on the porch, chatting with Lila as they drank iced tea in the shade. It wasn't long before the conversations grew deeper, more personal. They talked about high school, about the people they had been back then and how much they'd changed. Rowan confessed that she had never left Cedar Creek, but she had made a life for herself. She was an artist now, painting landscapes that captured the beauty of the countryside. "What about you?" Rowan asked one evening, as they watched the sunset from the porch. "What's life like in the city?" Lila hesitated, not sure how to explain the distance she'd felt from everyone there. "It's different. Busy, loud. But I don't know if it ever really felt like home." Rowan glanced at her, her expression soft. "I get that. Sometimes, no matter where you go, it feels like you're still searching for something." Lila nodded, staring out at the horizon. "Yeah, that's exactly it." Chapter 4. Old Feelings, New Beginnings. One afternoon, after a particularly long day of work, Rowan invited Lila over to her studio. It was a small, converted shed at the edge of her property, filled with canvases, paintbrushes, and half-finished paintings. Lila wandered around the room, admiring the work. Rowan's paintings were stunning, capturing the beauty of Cedar Creek in ways Lila had never noticed before. There were wildflowers, sunsets, and rolling hills, all painted with a depth and emotion that took Lila's breath away. "You're really talented," Lila said, turning to Rowan, who was wiping her hands on a paint-splattered rag. "Thanks," Rowan said, smiling shyly. "It's my way of making sense of things, I guess." Lila nodded, feeling a familiar flutter in her chest. The way Rowan looked at her, the way she smiled, it brought back all the feelings Lila had tried to bury. The truth was, she had never stopped thinking about Rowan, even after all these years. As the evening wore on, they found themselves sitting on the floor of the studio, talking about everything and nothing. The conversation flowed easily, but there was an undercurrent of tension, a question hanging in the air between them. Finally, Rowan broke the silence. "Lila, there's something I need to say." Lila's heart raced. "Okay." Rowan looked down at her hands, then back up at Lila, her expression serious. "Back in high school, I had feelings for you, and I think I still do." Lila's breath caught in her throat. She had been waiting for this moment for years, but now that it was here, she didn't know what to say. I had feelings for you too," Lila admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just didn't know how to handle it back then." Rowan smiled softly. "I figured as much. But we're not kids anymore, Lila. We don't have to be afraid of who we are." Lila felt a wave of relief wash over her. Rowan was right. They weren't those scared teenagers anymore, hiding their feelings out of fear of what people might think. They were adults now, free to live their lives on their own terms. Without thinking, Lila leaned in and kissed Rowan. It was soft, gentle, and filled with all the unspoken emotions that had been building between them for years. When they pulled back, Rowan smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "I've been waiting for that for a long time," Rowan whispered. Lila laughed, feeling a lightness she hadn't felt in years. "Me too." Chapter 5. A New Kind of Home. The next few weeks were a blur of work and moments spent together. Lila and Rowan fell into an easy rhythm, balancing the responsibilities of the farm with their growing relationship. Lila found herself feeling more at home in Cedar Creek than she ever had before. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, watching the stars appear in the night sky, Lila realized something. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged. Not just in the town, but in her own skin. "I think I'm going to stay," Lila said, her voice soft but certain. Rowan looked at her, surprised. "Really?" Lila nodded, smiling. "Yeah, this place. It feels like home now. And I don't want to leave." Rowan's smile grew wider, and she took Lila's hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm glad," she said, "because I can't imagine Cedar Creek without you." As they sat there hand in hand, Lila realized that she had found what she had been searching for all along. Not just a place to call home, but someone to share it with.